What was your sense of playing with Azul last game? Oh, no, you were against Azul, that's right. Who was your team
Yeah.
captain last game?
It was Ghost.
How did he do as captain?
He did pretty well. I would say he was calling the middle fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
He made a lot of great calls as far as like upgrade paths are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we were just following his lead.
Oh, alright, so we got the rock lanes in the middle for this one. And then on the red team we have Kush going Dread Gats, Alpha going Imp, JIMBOX going Range Missile BC, Kurtis going Plague Ovi, Pi going Storm Arb, and Azul going just pure range, I guess. Should we have like another 25 minerals? Yeah, whatever. Um, on the blue team, we have Boomer going 4 shield, 3 missile, Jimbers going 1 laser, but mostly range, Wash going range missile, Thomas going imp, Shaolin going needles, and Ghost going interceptors. So we have the G versus C on the right side lane. No tank, 3 support BC in the mid for the red team, and then D versus G on the left side lane. And so the 3 support is unsurprisingly pushed back here, but as we saw last game, that isn't necessarily going to result in a loss if red team has a lot more support. And so blue team does not have an arbiter.
Oh wow, they're
and
actually getting a
their
kill up here
support
in mid.
went a different lane than the frigate, which might already be
Yeah, the
GG for
support got
them.
separated out.
And so that was an unfortunate decision by Thomas, their support. And will they actually
May
also
get a
get
second-
Boomer here?
they may get a
might
second kill
actually
here.
also get Boomer. I mean, the shields are coming on now. And this, I mean, that's not GG. You can come back from 5 versus 6, but, ooh. Very greedy.
Wow.
Greedy from iluvPie.
Yeah, I was before all of that push. I was gonna say it'll be interesting to see which mid actually starts to pull away. Whether tank in the mid was gonna start actually being able to push, or
Mm-hmm.
if having more supports will be able to kind of negate that fact out.
I mean, usually when you go Colossus, you would pair it up with the Arbiter going that shield transfer, and so the Colossus without the shield transfer means that you're kind of actually deceptively soft in the middle, especially if your Raven spontaneously goes a different lane. But I don't think the frigate was altogether essential for the blue team. Like, they have the carrier, they can come back on farm, like, once they get going. You know,
Yeah, they definitely still have kill max with the carrier and the guardian being alive still.
Yeah. So their late game has not really changed. What they've lost is their mid lane push in the early game. And that is unfortunate, but since red team is 3 support in the mid anyway, honestly I don't think losing the 22 farm frigate is really as huge as it may seem. I mean, it's definitely not ideal for the blue team, but in terms of their mid and late game strategies, I don't think it's really going to make a huge difference, especially since that frigate wasn't necessarily going to be doing that much versus our Raven with the potential for PDD and force field.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing that he would be offering right now, though, is a lot of push power.
Yeah, I mean, what they lost is their
until the
contain
Ravens-
potential, right? I mean, they can't
Yeah,
really
exactly.
safely stay here and farm, and so that's really what they lost.
Exactly, yeah, because until the Ravens have, at least 600 energy, then PDDs aren't going to be
Enough,
that
yeah.
heavy yet.
The PD won't actually keep him completely out of missiles. It'll just be annoying. And if Ghost gets super fed, then who knows what can happen? They can get force field and matrix and these other things, but it can be kind of tricky to be dealing with that while you're also dealing with Guardians on a completely different lane, right? And so with
Exactly.
this map, too, with the 3 different lanes, there's still a lot of potential for big plays here. But that's also true for the red team, you know, if they can catch Shaolin out of position once and the Dread just gets on him and can't be stopped, that can also be very dangerous for them as well. Azul went Scourge, though. Not Broods. Which, I think Scourges, they still have their buff, right? So I know that a few things on Guard just recently got just a very slight nerf. I know that Broodlink damage got reduced from 3 to 2 per upgrade. But I think that Scourge still was recently buffed, and so they still have 14 Scourges dealing 250 per hit.
The Scourge was buffed, but actually he actually put it back down to what it used to be.
Oh,
because you would always get 2 Scourge upgrades for every upgrade. The recent buff, he had made it 3 Scourges for each upgrade, but
that was like way
too
much.
Powerful.
I mean, Scourges weren't like altogether bad before. They just, I mean, they weren't the usual build because they're not as late gamey as Broodlords, but they weren't like altogether bad, right? And so buffing them by like 33 or by really a 50% buff made them pretty strong. I think a little bit stronger than was intended.
Yeah,
like, I mean, if you're gonna buff them, increase their HP by like 10 or something, right? Make it so that they can, you know, push through and actually hit someone a little bit easier. There's already so many ways to dodge Scourge, right? I mean, Cloak and all these other things can transfer the target, in addition to, you know, Matrix and all these other things. And you have time between when the Scourge fires and when they hit, so that support can actually kind of anticipate it and react.
Yeah, a lot of people tended to not agree that the 3 Scourge upgrades were really powerful, which I did think that they was a little too powerful. However, I would just like to have seen an overall damage reduction in the actual damage that each Scourge did. So I was kind of thinking that while you would have the 3 Scourge upgrades, just make them do about 220 to 215 damage per Scourge instead of just keeping it back down to the 2.
Yeah, that's something they can keep playing with. And so Red has a 300 farm lead here and the farm advantage right now, but you know, considering Blue Team was down a ship, I still don't think that they are down as much on farm as might have been feared at the 10-minute mark, right? I mean, the big fear when you lose a ship that early is that you're just going to get contained forever. And that, I don't think we've seen that. Firmer coming out super tanky, pretty much, you know, he pretty much has no damage output. Wash is Yamato, which I think is a very curious decision. Why do you think
Wash
went
how
Yamato?
much he denies on the field? It is a curious one.
Like, I would have thought, like, lockdown on Wash, not Yamato.
One of the things that the red team does need to be aware of is that they need to feed their supports a little bit of farm, too. So if you're looking at the farm tracking, almost everybody is in the 300s, whereas Alpha is sitting there at 116. So usually it's a good idea for the team captain at this point to feed him a little bit of farm on the outside lane for 1 or 2 minutes, just to help him get caught back up.
Who was their captain? It was OGKush, right?
Yeah, I think it was
their captain is in the mid. And it's their OV in the side lane farming up against that Guardian. Pushing up to a 500 farm lead, and it's right here where Blue Team didn't really push them out very quickly. And they're still kind of just in this slow fight in the middle. And Shaolin wants to kind of push Kurtis back, but he just, you know, he can't really extend very far when the mid isn't really under control. Meanwhile, Azul is just in the side lane, nomming, nom. So much farm, 900. He already has level 1 Scourge. I mean, do you think he's going to stay on Scourge, or he could transition into Broodlings at this point? I mean, he's in the same lane as a carrier, so do you think that's impacting his decision?
I believe he'll start to make the transition into Broods decently soon. So he may start to get some of the base ups for it right now. like all of his broodling damage before he actually buys the actual brood lords.
Yeah, so he can keep his energy more on the Scourges while he builds up the broodling upgrades that he needs to really make them pay off.
Yeah, exactly. Nice contaminated on the siege creep.
Yeah, Thomas is super underfarmed too, so even though you're right that Alpha is underfarmed, he's still better farmed than the blue team's Raven, who is still 350 energy with one spell. That's, he's not going to be able to do much with that. And then Wash is actually also not that well fed. He does have 450 now, so he could at this point think about picking up Lockdown or something. He hasn't been hitting too many plagues, but...
Oh wow, so the Guardian, he ended up just going a bunch of energy and spines.
And I think he got 2 upgrades on his Scourge. So he's 500 energy, 18 Scourges.
Yep, he bought two more upgrades on Scourge.
And so if, he doesn't get something with his Scourges,
I mean, it might be a smart choice, actually, since he is in that same lane as the carrier.
Yeah.
As long as he can keep vision on him, he can just keep the Scourges coming.
JIMBOX went missile pods and energy. I guess he's really concerned about Ghost's ints. Although Ghost actually kind of jumped off ints a little bit and picked up Vortex. Which, Vortex is always such a hard decision for me. Like, one of the reasons I don't play carrier much is because, a lot of the times I'm like, well, do I get Vortex or do I just stay on ints? And it seems like a lot of really strong carrier players will just never get Vortex. They will just stay on ints until the end of time. But, certainly Vortex can save your team or generate a kill, but, why did Ghost get Vortex here? Is he, just planning to save someone? Because I don't see how they're going to get a kill with a Vortex here.
I would think that they were just going to have it just in case that they could ever separate people. Mm-hmm. Just to be able to generate that kill if they get the opportunity to. But at this point, with the way the farm lead's kind of stretching out, they may have to just actually do something to where they try and force it.
Yeah, I would have almost thought, Plasma Surge for the ints just to be able to try to get back there and get some of the farm in the lane, because, he's practically he's pretty much leaking the right side here a little bit now. I mean, the Warp Prism is getting shots off and is getting kills, and that's all farm he desperately needs. I guess he did also kind of pick up some Tempests to go along with the Brood Lords. And so I guess if Thomas eventually gets PDD with the Brood Lords and the Tempest, that can be a thing. Oh, wow. Is that level 15 Tempest? .440 damage a shot with 17 range on the Tempest going down the mid. So yeah, I guess he mostly just went very hard into Tempest.
Yeah, it looks like they're just gonna try and just turtle that with broods and temps, because the red team doesn't really have a counter to just be able to keep charging into those types of units, especially since they have the Colossus still alive on their team.
Yep. I mean, they still have the Raven, who can imp them out of Cloak if they try to get in that way. But on the other hand, they have to be really careful here. iluvPie did not pick up Stasis, but I mean, if I was the blue team, I would be really worried about a Stasis right around here. Wash just still does not have Lockdown, so their only form of deny is Thomas's 375 energy imp. I don't think he even has... Does he even have the 300 damage drain upgrade yet? I don't think he even does. I think he's so underfarmed he doesn't even have kind of essential upgrade still.
On the Raven?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't look like he has his improved systems yet.
Although it could be that the tooltip doesn't change because Alpha still shows this minus 200 energy too. I'm not sure if the system's upgrade is reflected in the tooltip. Wish there was a way to see that somehow.
I think it is. I think it is reflected on the actual tool card.
Oh, so maybe Alpha just doesn't have it either? He does have 3 spells, so maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Alpha doesn't have a lot of farm. He only has 227, so with the way his energy is, where he's at 425, he also has Seeker. Yeah, he may not have it. He may not have been able to afford it.
Now, even on Tempests, I still think that Ghost would want to pick up Plasma Surge, right? Because sometimes OGKush does want to get in there and drop his bombardment on them. And so...
Onto the Tempest?
Yeah. And so Plasma Surging them there would actually help keep them up longer. Although maybe he just wants them all to die so that he can spawn in some more. The free spawn-in thing is kind of weird still.
Yeah, at this point in time where he has about almost 800, he definitely should have his Plasma Surge at this point.
I'm always kind of surprised.
He may be trying to cut just a little bit of corners just to keep out more damage, though.
Yeah, I would almost get in Plasma Surge over before Warpin. I mean, do you always get Warpin before Plasma Surge?
I usually get Warpin first, and then I'll get Plasma Surge. Usually on the next back or at the same time. It just kind of depends on if we're trying to turtle or if I'm able to just keep an heavy build and that sort of thing.
So Kurtis is up to 2,000 damage on his Slide Blast and 600 energy with 19 range on his mutas. So it looks like iluvPie does not yet have Cloak.
Wow.
Oh, is that...
I guess that's the reason why we had Tex. And is the Raven going to let the Guardian die?
Oh! He makes it out.
Wow.
If they can pick off Kurtis here, that would be I mean, I would be willing to sacrifice a ship for Kurtis right now. Oh, Boomer! Boomer, you need to make it a... You know, if it's going to be a sacrifice, you have to be ready to go all the way. I mean, you want to actually get Kurtis. You don't want to half commit and then die anyway. Well, there goes their tank. Their 426 farm tank. He was the 3rd highest farm ship on the blue team. They're now down 2 ships, so it's 6 versus 4. They are down 1,500 farm. But they still have their Guardian and their Carrier with their Temps and their Broodlords. And a 3-shot farm BC. I mean, if you were on the blue team, would you be thinking about GGing out here? Like, usually I think that if you're 6 versus 3, that's when I'm like, okay, should we just GG out at this point? Especially if there's like a 1,500 farm difference. But with 4 versus 6,
I mean,
it's...
just with the type of ships that they have left, they still have the chance. They still have the chance to be able to get it out, as long as they can exploit any type of openings that they get. They still have that chance with the Guardian and the Carrier being alive.
So is Red King gonna try to warp trick on Washburne or something here, or is OG just trying to? I mean, if they warp him now, they should be able to pick off Washburne.
Things would be definitely catastrophic if they're able to catch them right here.
And they are definitely going to do that.
It seems like they may be able to catch the Raven.
They're going to lose Thomas, I think. Wash might be able to get off. Like, if Thomas starts going back down, he could save Wash. Oh! Vortex. Can Vortex save it? I don't think Vortex is going to be enough. He's still going to go down.
Yep. Raven's dead here.
I mean, actually, if they only lose the Raven, that's almost less of a disaster than it could have been.
At this point, I think this is where you would normally call it GG.
Yeah, because they're not going to be able to hold these towers with the, you know, I mean, they don't have Cloak for Kurtis, but they do have Chrono Boost for Azul. and Kurtis sitting here with 600 farm and a 2400 damage side blast. They're not going to be able to come out of this. The towers are going to die, and then they're going to die, and they're not going to be able to hold it. And so Azul got his kills, so his Scourges paid for themselves, I guess. And now they're GGing out. And so do you think it was mostly just losing the frigate at the beginning, or was it that they overcommitted as a response to losing the frigate, you know, going, you know, heavy siege rather than taking up scouts or Scourges or other sorts of more aggressive burst damage?
I'd say it's a combination of a couple of things. Not having the Overlord definitely hurt a little bit.
Oh, an Overlord or an Arbiter, right? They had the one
free
support,
plagues and
like just
exactly,
Raven, and
yep.
the Raven, you know, was out of position once, and when he was out of position once, they lost the frigate. You know, if they had also had an Arbiter there, they probably could have kept that frigate up.
Exactly, but it was well executed by Red Team. They did a warp trick, got a kill off that, got an early kill on the frigate. It was very well played all around.
Yeah, they pretty much won this game at every phase. They won the early game, they won the mid game, and they won the late game, and it never looked like any of them were in serious danger, except that one time where maybe blue team could have gotten lucky and picked off Kurtis, but other than that, even if they had lost Kurtis, they still would have been up 500 farm in the ship, so... yeah, well, thank you for co-casting this with me, CRAKSHOTT. I'm gonna go and stop the stream here.
So I'm going to observe so that it would be hopefully at 2 versus 2.